Hello, my name is Tom and I'm a Heritage Assistant at Blackpool Council Heritage Service. As the country is marking the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain this year, I'm going to examine one remarkable piece of RAF history from our archives. In the collections of the Blackpool History Centre is a commemorative book presented by the RAF to the people of Blackpool, containing the operational logbook of an RAF Lancaster bomber, which saw active service during World War II. The history of this logbook led us to a fascinating account of the public role in supporting the war effort and led us to the amazing story of just one of the many aircraft funded by the people of Blackpool in 1943. Our story begins not in 1943 but in 1861, when the government formed the world's first postal savings scheme, National Savings and Investments. In an age where many people did not have access to a bank account, the scheme was designed to allow the poor to save money by purchasing bonds through the post office, recorded in a simple depositor's book. The success of the scheme allowed the government to use it as a source of finance for public borrowing. During the First World War, the British government began selling savings bonds specifically aimed to provide the money required for weapons and equipment for the armed forces. In 1916, they introduced patriotic marketing campaigns designed to sell war bonds, emphasising the fact that the public could contribute directly to the war effort. They also introduced specific campaigns such as Warship Week and Tank Week, which set specific savings targets for towns to purchase machines of their own. In February 1918, Blackpool hosted one such week. A real Mark IV tank named Julian was parked on Talbot Square as part of a national fundraising tour. However, Blackpool added a little of its own unique showmanship to proceedings with the creation of Albert, a tank tram cleverly disguised as a tank by the Corporation Tramways Department. Named after the Mayor Sir Albert Lindsay Parkinson, Albert the tank tram plied the promenade, promoting war bonds to the public. The success of war bond schemes was replicated during the Second World War, with ever more sophisticated publicity campaigns. Local organisational committees coordinated savings efforts by setting competitive savings targets and creating events and exhibitions designed to encourage the public to do their bit for the national savings effort. Wings for Victory was a targeted scheme created in 1943 to celebrate the achievements of the Royal Air Force during the Battle of Britain and provide funding for new aircraft and weapons to push home the bombing campaign over German territory. Wings for Victory was publicly launched by the Lord Mayor of London on the 7th of March, with a large parade of RAF personnel in central London and an opening ceremony in Trafalgar Square, flanked by a Lancaster bomber. It was estimated that 1 million people attended this event. Prior to 1943, Blackpool had already raised money to purchase 3 new Spitfires named Progress 1, 2 and 3, and the Lancashire Constabulary had provided 3 Spitfires called Red Rose 1, 2 and 3. The town greeted the Wings for Victory campaign with no less enthusiasm. This is unsurprising due to the deep links with British aviation history. The town prided itself that it had hosted Britain's first official air show in 1909 and developed 2 aerodromes at Squires Gate and Stanley Park, both of which were requisitioned by the RAF during the war. More importantly, the town was designated a training centre for the RAF due to the large quantity of accommodation in the town, the availability of the beach, and many large public venues for training purposes such as the Winter Gardens. Approximately 800,000 RAF recruits were passed through Blackpool during the war, coming to town to receive their paperwork, medicals and kit before completing 6 weeks of basic training. The town also hosted over 18,000 Polish airmen and became the main depot for the Polish RAF squadrons. Add to that nearly 3,000 Wellington bombers constructed by Vickers Armstrong at Squires Gate, and it's safe to say Blackpool was very much an RAF town. The people of Blackpool were set a target of £1.26 million by their local savings committee. This was enough to purchase 2 squadrons of Spitfires, a squadron of Lancaster bombers and a squadron of Wellington bombers. In preparation for the week, the town hall was decorated with a tableau, especially constructed for the occasion by the illuminations department. This would become the focal point for ceremonies throughout the week, during which the daily totals would be announced. Blackpool's own Wings for Victory Week was launched on the 1st of April 1943 with an opening ceremony in Talbot Square. After a performance by the RAF band, Field Marshal Sir Philip Joubert conducted an inspection of the RAF Guard of Honour and addressed the crowds, remarking how fit it was to be in the home of aviation, and referred to the happy days of 1909 and 1910 when Blackpool took a pioneering part in aviation. He also thanked the landladies of Blackpool who were housing and feeding the thousands of RAF personnel who'd been billeted on the town. Joubert also spoke eloquently about the sacrifices of the RAF during the Battle of Britain and encouraged the people of Blackpool to play their part by avoiding reckless spending, wasting vital resources. He reminded people of the cost of lives and shipping involved in bringing supplies by naval convoys. As the Gazette reported, Wings for Victory is no mere slogan, but a battle cry for speedy, successful and smashing victory. Also located outside the town hall was an empty bomb case. The Mayor, Percy Round, encouraged the public to buy saving stamps and stick them to the bomb casing, which was going to be sent to a filling factory at the end of the week. He said, "Within a few weeks the RAF has promised to deliver it with Blackpool's compliments on enemy territory." This began a week of public displays and events across the town. Blackpool North Railway Station hosted an ambulance train for public viewing, whilst the Naval Rescue Launch was moored off North Pier. The Odeon Cinema packed in 3,000 people to watch specially made Ministry of Information films with titles such as RAF in Action, Speed Up for Sterlings and Malta Convoy. Local department store RAHO Hills hosted an exhibition and sales centre, as did the Cooperative store, both of which were ceremonially opened by the Mayor. As the Evening Gazette reported, the stars of the show in the Cooperative exhibition have never flown an aeroplane. They wear overalls and hour after hour attend 2 droning machines. These stars were 2 female aircraft factory operatives, Monica Gillet and Dorothy Sanderson, who demonstrated machines used for producing aircraft framing tubing and screws, much to the fascination of the Mayor and Mayoress. The Market Square was handed over to the Air Training Corps for a week-long exhibition which included the display of a Typhoon aircraft, Hotspur glider, balloon winches and an exhibition marquee. During the week it also hosted an event recognising the vital role of homing pigeons as messengers for the RAF. 200 pigeons were released in a race whose proceeds went to the Victoria Hospital. One pigeon carried a message to Lord Kinderley, Chairman of the National Savings, which read, "Greetings. Blackpool is determined not only to achieve, but to exceed its target. Percy Round, Mayor." At noon on Tuesday, the first ceremony was held to announce the previous day's savings total. In true Blackpool fashion, this was done with a dash of spectacle and a flash of pyrotechnics created by the engineers of the Illuminations Department. At the push of a button from the Mayor, a model plane suspended over the tableau dropped a mini-bomb onto the cardboard boat. This ignited a small charge and a smoke cartridge which split the boat in half to reveal the total raised, all to the delight of the cheering crowd. Each day was marked by the destruction of a different target. On the first day, £544,000 and 11 pence had been raised. This ceremony was replicated across the week as the total increased, with a special guest speaker each day. The most notable of these speakers was pioneering female pilot Miss Jean Batten MBE, famous for making the first solo flight from New Zealand to Britain. In her speech, she once again evoked the RAF's achievements in the Battle of Britain, saying, "We can never repay them, not adequately, but what we can do is supply them with greater and greater fleets of aeroplanes. That is the purpose of Wings for Victory." Batten went on to auction off a large, fully iced fruitcake, the likes of which had not been seen since rationing began. The cake raised the princely sum of £13 for the cause. Traditional fundraising events occurred throughout the week, such as bridge and whist drives and a Dutch auction held by the Rotary Club, an evening of patriotic formation dancing by the Blackpool School of Dancing at the Winter Gardens, and a whist drive and a non-stop dance in the Spanish Hall added to the entertainments on offer. A bit of Blackpool glitz was sprinkled by the Palace Theatre, who hosted a special concert party for members of the RAF and WAF. Organised by professional producer Jack Rose, the bill included Dave Fullerton and the Debonaires, comedian Scott Sanders, trick cyclist Chris Sands, acrobat Pesco, cartoonist Paddy Drew, animal actor Frank and his Fox Terriers. But topping the bill was swing violinist Stefan Grappelli. The French-Italian jazz pioneer had been performing in London at the outbreak of the war and was unable to return home. However, he built up a considerable public following playing in the West End and touring during the duration of the war. Many cadet groups and schools also got involved. The Gazette noted that Miss A.N. Kenyon, art teacher at the collegiate school, created a novel way to get her pupils saving. She constructed two figures, a Nazi eagle with Hitler's face and a Blackpool seagull. Every time a pupil contributed to the fund, they would pluck a feather from the eagle and stick it to the seagull. It was not long before Hitler began to feel a draft on his Western Front, the Gazette quipped. It was noted that the combined amount raised by pupils of Blackpool schools, £118,952, was a national record. On Thursday the 8th of March, a grand parade took place along the promenade. 5,000 servicemen took part, including American and Polish troops, 1,000 boy and girl cadets, a £4,000 blockbuster bomb, and a wingless Spitfire inscribed, "This is the fuselage, give us the wings." The same day, Derby Baths hosted an event in which members of the armed forces demonstrated how rivers and waterways were crossed in full kit. The RAF also demonstrated how crews escaped planes once they ditched in water, took to their self-inflating dinghies, prepared rations and sent distress signals. This was followed by swimming competitions between different branches of the armed forces. Blackpool's Wings for Victory Week was a huge success. Alongside significant contributions from individual savers, many local companies got involved. Blackpool Tower Company invested £23,000 and the Fylde Water Board £16,000, and even the Town Council invested public money in the bonds. The final total raise was just over £1.8 million, over £500,000 above the target set. This was enough to fund 18 Lancaster bombers, 18 Wellington bombers and 32 Spitfires. As Mayor Percy Round noted in the closing ceremony, "I'm a proud man, as proud as I've ever been. To every man, woman and child who has contributed to this triumph, thank you." Every council who reached its target was awarded 2 commemorative items. The first was a plaque made of moulded plastic. The plaque, designed by sculptor William Macmillan, depicted the winged spirit of youth fighting the 3-headed Hydra, representing the Axis powers. Near the top is the motto of the Royal Air Force, Per Ardua ad Astra, through adversity to the stars. Below the wing figure is a pattern based on the 3 dots and a dash, which is Morse code for the letter V, representing victory. The second commemorative item, which includes the same design on its cover, is the logbook, which details the active service for one of the aircraft funded by the Wings for Victory campaign, the story of Blackpool's very own Lancaster bomber. These items were presented to the Council in 1947 as part of another national savings campaign, Silver Linings Week. This campaign was designed to promote fundraising for post-war reconstruction. The Council elected to place the logbook on public display in the Central Library, and thus it became part of the town's historic collections. Blackpool's plane, commemorated in the logbook, was Lancaster EE-186, assigned to 61 Squadron, part of the No. 5 Group Bomber Command. This squadron spent most of 1943 based at RAF Cirencester near Newark before moving to RAF Skellingthorpe near Lincoln in November 1943. The logbook records that EE-186 came into service on the 23rd of September 1943, where it took part in a raid over Mannheim, captained by Flight Officer G. A. Berry and a 6-man crew. The logbook records this crew taking EE-186 on a further 24 bombing missions over enemy territory during the rest of 1943, many over Berlin itself. Until, according to the logbook, the 29th of December 1943. EE-186 is recorded as departing England at 4:22 p.m. to raid Berlin, but failed to return. However, this is not the end of the story. Searching for more information on the fate of EE-186, we checked the squadron logbook held at the National Archives at Kew. We discovered that the commemorative logbook presented to Blackpool Council was wrong. In fact, EE-186 did return at midnight on the 29th of December 1943, having successfully bombed Berlin. It was another Lancaster, DV-399, which failed to return. How this mistake occurred is unknown, but the logbook does contain errors, including recording the serial number as FE-186, when no such plane existed. The records at Kew confirm that Flight Officer Berry and crew were flying EE-186 for the majority of its missions in 1943. EE-186 was back in the air on the 1st of January 1944 with a new crew, and went on to participate in many bombing raids, including the 4th and 5th of July 1944 when it met its final fate. That night the aircraft was captained by Flight Officer Bill North and a 6-man crew. Departing from RAF Skellingthorpe, 61 Squadron successfully destroyed a German flying bomb launch site at Saint-Lô d'Azur near Rouen. However, 13 Lancasters failed to return, including EE-186. On its return journey, EE-186 was attacked by a German night fighter, causing severe damage to the aircraft and seriously injuring Bill North, the pilot, who told his story to historian Chris Kelty in his book Riding in the Shadow of Death. North said, "We lost our port inner engine, flaps and one of our petrol tanks. I was shot in the left elbow and thigh. My left arm just dropped down useless because the nerve had been severed. The aircraft was not responding to the controls, so I gave the order, abandon aircraft. But then one of our men said his parachute harness had been shot off and he couldn't jump. I decided that the only option was to crash land the aircraft. I was not going to leave him behind." Amazingly, North successfully crash-landed EE-186 in a field near Harkensey, northern France, with 3 other crew members still on board. His piloting skills saved their lives as well as his own. In fact, the entire crew survived. After gunner Dennis Bartlett helped North out of the wreckage, both men were captured by the Germans. North was sent to Stalag Luft 1 in Germany and Bartlett to a POW camp in Poland. 2 of the crew, wireless operator Monteith and air gunner O'Shea, had successfully bailed out and were also captured and transferred to a POW camp in Poland, whilst Bomber Jarvis was held in Germany. They remained POWs until the end of the war. 2 of the crew, Engineer Sergeant Dave Hackett and Navigator Sergeant Crowley, managed to evade capture and both returned to the UK. 13 Lancasters were lost the night EE-186 was shot down, with the loss of 49 men. As Bill North said, "When I look back at everything we went through while serving with Bomber Command, I can't help but feel that I shouldn't be here when so many aren't. But I am, and that is an odd feeling. Every night we flew in the shadow of death, and I think about it every day. I thank my guardian angel that I am and I can share it with you." We are glad to have been able to share this story of EE-186. We hope that you have enjoyed the video. If you would like to find out more about Blackpool's heritage or have your own stories to share, please visit our website www.heritageblackpool.co.uk for more details.